What is going on with MULLEN Automotive? In this video, I will try to answer this question. But the most important question on shareholders' minds is, will MULLEN stock go up this week? After all, everywhere across social media, you will easily find people saying that MULLEN stock will go to $10 or go to $100. But what facts are these predictions based upon? Or are these people simply just pumping the stock? Is it possible to get MULLEN shares for only 13 cents per share? Yes, 13 cents. That is a real question that I will look at later in this video using facts. In today's video, I will not talk about rumors, I will not talk about opinion, I will not even talk about my own opinion. Today I will simply look at the facts. Today I will look at MULLEN's filings with the SEC and MULLEN's own press releases over the past few weeks. And I will show you that even the best data websites like Ortex or Fintel are not always correct. In fact, sometimes they are wrong by millions. This video has taken a lot of time and effort to prepare today, so if you appreciate the effort, show your support. I'm aiming to get 300 likes on this video, but I expect to get a lot of dislikes too. So if you find any value in this video, then help this channel by liking this video. Help YouTube become a platform where people can find real information, not just channels that pump stocks. The YouTube algorithm is more likely to show videos that are full of lies than videos that are full of facts, simply because more people will like the pretty little lie than the ugly truth. Help fight this toxic situation by liking this video, and remember to subscribe to the channel if you're new. Now, I usually say that the following video is just my opinion and not financial advice. However, today's video is not my opinion. Today's video is just looking at the facts, but this is still not financial advice, so whatever you are going to do with this stock, I wish you all the best. Now, let's get into it. So what is going on with MULLEN Automotive? So the first thing that I want to say is that in the very short term, there could be major upside, based on a couple of reasons which I will discuss later in this video. But more importantly, what has been happening over the past few days? So first of all, David Mitchery, CEO of MULLEN Automotive, had promised that the company would announce a deal with a Fortune 500 company that is set to buy a lot of MULLEN Automotive vans. This deal was first mentioned back in March, and David Mitchery set the deadline that this would be announced in a major PR before the end of the quarter. As of Thursday evening, there was no announcement about this, but instead MULLEN released a PR statement stating that they now have the strongest balance sheet in the company's history. So this press release states that they expect to report in excess of $61 million in cash and cash equivalents on June 30th, after having significantly strengthened its balance sheet over the quarter. And this is something that shareholders really need to be aware of. This is something that is absolutely catastrophic for shareholders, and I will discuss this more in just a moment. But first, the highlights of the rest of this press release. MULLEN delivered its first EV van under a pilot program to a telecommunications provider, which we already know. Payoff of a secured convertible, promissory note in a deal with Esausa Holdings. MULLEN was added as a member of the US small cap Russell 2000 and Russell 3000 indexes. And MULLEN reached an agreement, subject to approval by the company shareholders, to secure $275 million in additional funding for the company. Now, this entire press release is just a rehash of the information that was released just 1 week earlier. On June 23rd, the company issued this update which says the exact same information. MULLEN delivered its EV van, MULLEN joins the Russells, MULLEN reached an agreement subject to shareholder approval to secure $275 million. The June 30th press release should have provided us with new information about the Fortune 500 company and details of that contract. MULLEN was not under any pressure to announce this deal back to the world in March, but to set a deadline and then not meet that deadline is just incredibly unprofessional. Remember that this is a deadline that David Mitchery himself set for MULLEN Automotive. All this did was create a hype around the stock and turn MULLEN Automotive stock into one of the most talked about stocks on the market. As we can see here, even months on from this, only Tesla is more talked about than MULLEN. But this is nothing new. David Mitchery has been making promises and setting deadlines for MULLEN Automotive for years, which is something that I will look at in a moment. But first, let's go back to the claim about the strongest balance sheet in the company's history. MULLEN will report in excess of $61 million of cash, but only 5 weeks ago, back on May 17th, MULLEN Automotive reported their earnings report for the first quarter of the year, and as we can see here, as of March 31st, Mullen had cash and cash equivalents of $65.1 million. Now this is an incredible improvement from the balance sheet that they had at the time of their previous financials, which showed that they had only $360 as of December 31st. So between December and March, Mullen raised $65 million, but they did this through a massive dilution. At the end of 2021, there were 17.47 million shares of MULLEN stock outstanding. By the time we got to the March financials, this had raised threefold, up to over 51.3 million shares. Now 51 million shares is still a small float, but dilution of 300% is incredible, and $65 million is nothing for a startup EV company. If you've seen my videos over the past couple of weekends where I've looked at the financial statements of other EV companies, for example, Lucid has over $5 billion of cash, Rivian has over $17 billion, even Polestar has over $1.2 billion. So 65 million is nothing for an EV company. And as we can see here, Mullen made a loss of over 30 million in the first quarter of 2022 alone. 65 million would get them through 2 quarters, but it gets far worse than that. If they are burning through $30 million per quarter and they have 65 million at the end of March, then how exactly does MULLEN Automotive still have 61 million at the end of June? That means they either spent only $4 million in the past 3 months, or they have diluted shareholders by a little bit more. Well, in fact, a little bit more is actually a lot more. By the way, guys, all these figures are coming from MULLEN Automotive's very own SEC filings. This information is 100% accurate, otherwise these filings would have to be amended with the SEC. So if anyone wants to check this information for themselves, go to the MULLEN Automotive website, look at their filings and read through them. This is the company's recent 14A filing from June 24th. This is quite a long document at well over 40 pages, but there is a breakdown of the current ownership structure of the company. As we can see here, there is now 477.5 million shares of common stock currently outstanding, which means that in the past 6 months, since the end of December, MULLEN Automotive has gone from having 17 million shares up to 477 million shares. That means that Mullen has actually diluted shareholders by an incredible 2,630%. They have issued 460 million shares in 6 months. 460 million shares, for which the company has now got $61 million. $61 million for 460 million shares. Something that I always ask when I see a company that has raised a lot of cash is the question of how did they raise that cash and how much did that cash actually cost the stockholders? In this case, the issuance of 460 million shares. This effectively means that for every share that MULLEN Automotive issued over the past 6 months, they have received about 13 cents per share. So where has all the money from these shares actually gone? Well, we can see here that David Mitchery actually owns 148 million shares of Mullen himself, which amounts to 29.5% of the company. He also owns pretty much all of the Series A and Series C preferred stock. So 148 million shares. This is a huge increase from the 44 million shares that David Mitchery owned at December 31st. So he has effectively gained an extra 100 million shares for himself in the past 6 months. Or to put that in real money terms, in the past 6 months, he has effectively increased his shareholding by $108 million. But all the SEC filings show for David Mitchery is sale of shares and gifting of shares. Guys, if you appreciate this type of analysis where I look at real data and get into real facts about companies, then smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel and most importantly, follow me on Twitter. This is the first in a series of videos that I plan on doing on MULLEN stock over the next few days. In the upcoming videos, I will be looking at promises that this CEO and this company have made over the past few years that have also not come to fruition. I will look at other agreements that they've had in place that have never materialized into anything serious and never produced any tangible results. If this is something that you would like to see, then drop a comment down below. But the last thing that I want to talk about here is something that a lot of people seem to not fully get the grasp of. Not every website that you look at will give you accurate information, daily information. For example, I see so many stocks right now where everybody is quoting data from the likes of Fintel or Ortex. People see this data as gospel. They see this data about insider trading or CTB, short interest, days to cover, whatever. And they make the assumption that these websites' data is 100% correct. But let's look here at Fintel. According to Fintel, David Mitchery owns only 6.9 million shares of MULN stock, and that back in January he owned 8.3 million shares. But we know it for a fact that as of this week he owns at least 148 million shares. It is in the SEC filings. So never base your entire investment thesis on data from any of these websites. There is no guarantee that it is correct. However, the SEC filings are correct. They have to be correct. If these filings are wrong, they need to be amended and resubmitted. For example, we can see here that with the quarterly report last month that was submitted on the 16th of May, then had to be amended and resubmitted the following day. So guys, that brings us to the end of the video. If you want to see a follow-up video where I look at the other red flags of Mullen and look into why there are so many lawsuits being filed recently, then drop a comment and let me know. Follow me on Twitter to stay up to date, but remember that I am not a financial advisor, this is not financial advice, and that all the information in this video came from MULLEN Automotive's very own SEC filings. Any company or CEO can do interviews, they can issue press releases, they can say whatever they want, but the SEC filings must be correct. Which is why I've taken all my data in today's video from the company's SEC filings. So for anyone who is about to call me a liar or a bear or about to claim that I'm shorting the stock, then you really should learn how to read, research and analyze. To my usual viewers who will watch this until the end, as usual, you guys are true legends and I appreciate the support so much. Catch you in the next one.